This film study is going to focus on Detroit Lions defensive tackle Tyleik Williams, who will be entering his second year with the team. Competed with a number of other veterans, many of whom are gone on the interior for snaps and playing time on the field last year. Only produced 10 tackles and 1 sack overall. We're going to get the film started immediately here. I'll give you some of my thoughts as we go along as it relates to Williams. He'll generally be spot shadowed and sometimes tracked during the course of the play. I'll be up front. Most of this is run defense stuff because I think that's what Tyleik Williams is best at, number one. Number two, there did seem to be this dynamic where he was off the field on a number of 3rd and 6s. This is probably his best play from his rookie season, matched up against Joe Thuney, the perennial All-Pro for the Bears left guard, who I think actually switched to left tackle later in the year when they had a ton of trouble. Just very physical and violent, if you ask me, as a 3-technique defender. You can see why he was a first-round pick. And in addition to that, I suspect that he plays better from the right-hand side. Some guys are just better with the right or their left hand in the ground. In my opinion, just based on the film that I have watched, 5 games at this point, in the last probably 3 or 4 days of Tyleik Williams, he plays better with his left hand in the ground, which means he'll be lined up on the right side of the defense. Not necessarily saying that I think that they should move him to that side wholeheartedly. There just is a suspicion in my mind that he's more destructive and perhaps more natural using his hands from that right side. That's a dominant, very special, memorable rep, if you ask me, against an all-pro guy that happened in Week 18. So, of course, we would hope that it's a preview of what 2026 could look like. Another really strong rep here from the right-hand side. Again, a B-gap player, outside shade, 3 technique. And this is against Donovan Jackson, the rookie left guard for the Vikings. I think he was like the 24th or the 25th pick. In any case, like I said, really strong when playing out of that left-handed stance with the left hand down. And sometimes he's, actually in like a 4-point stance or almost a 3.5. In any case, he's going to stand Jackson up here completely and totally control that gap, the B gap, in obvious control of the situation. Now, you guys lose perspective a little bit of the running back and the tailback, but that's the whole point of me illustrating some of the player movement patterns pre-snap. In addition, Harper is going to be the guy that's going to come up and make the tackle on the backside because the running back is forced to wind it back. That's a result of Tyleik Williams totally dominating and controlling that B gap again. I wonder if he's going to be a better player from the right-hand side and if Detroit's coaching staff has maybe perhaps come to the same conclusion. Some defenses, some teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, for example, they generally play their defensive linemen right and left. Some of this is going to skip around as far as the chronological order of the season. Again, I packaged run plays in the beginning, 8 or 9 of them, in fact, in a row, and then I'll give you 3 pass rush reps at the end. 3rd and 1, that very difficult to watch 16-9 loss to the Eagles. The defense played pretty valiant, if you ask me. The offense was self-destructed and, of course, could not block the Eagles' front 6 or 7. In any case, really good rep from the left-hand side, okay? The direction that we have or the perspective is reversed. We're behind the offense. So this is a 3rd and 1, and Nowaski's going to be unblocked, all right, here. Detroit is very clearly showing their hand. They're in a run-stopping group, all right, from the standpoint of left to right on our screen. They've got Lopez, Reeder, then Williams, and then Aleem McNeil all lined up with an edge defender, in this case, Trevor Nowaski. Nowaski's going to be the guy who's going to get the TFL. He's going to basically scream off the edge, unblocked, and then make the tackle. Like I said, it's a 3rd and 1 early in the game. But check out Williams. He gets his cleats in the ground, and he's got a really low power base. In addition, so does DJ Reeder. DJ Reeder kind of becomes invisible a little bit here during the play. You're getting a combo from the center, and then the left guard is taking Reeder over. And Reeder kind of, like I said, disappears a little bit for you guys because that really low center of gravity. The one thing I do like about Williams and Reeder that I would say is somewhat of a comparison point between them is they do a good job, if you ask me, of getting their cleats in the ground and holding their ground. Reeder has a little bit better pad level, in my opinion, but he's also a nose tackle. He can play 3 technique, but you can see the idea here for this play. Nowaski gets the TFL, don't get me wrong, but Williams and Reeder are the guys who make the play. Reeder up underneath the left guard, and then Williams totally knocking Lane Johnson completely bowing him backwards, and Detroit gets a stop, at least on this play. It's a violent ass punch from Tyleik Williams. I think you'd like to see, obviously more of this in the 2026 season from the standpoint of him playing aggressively in the B gap as a 3 technique and getting downhill. Another rep against the run, and we've moved him back over to the right-hand side here. It's week 14. Later in the season, the Lions 44-30 win against the Cowboys. This is third quarter. A little bit unusual that Dallas was actually running the ball here, but in any case, he's a three technique, and it's a really cool scheme from a Dallas perspective. It's what I would call a fold scheme. And the idea behind that is the tight end works up to the inside linebacker level immediately, and then the tackle folds to the outside to kick out the edge defender. In this case, is Aiden Hutchinson. But this is predicated upon controlling that B-gap player, controlling the three technique, because you're not using the tackle to help out with that three technique at all. So you got to reach him or try to control him in some manner. And that actually does get accomplished. But Williams plays what some would call a backdoor technique here, meaning you're playing on the underside of a reach block. I'm not saying that you're allowing yourself to get reached. You're fighting pressure with pressure. And then the idea behind that is oftentimes to allow inside linebackers to flow over the top because you're playing the back door. You let them go to the front side. The running back knows where the ball is supposed to go, sees the other team's jersey, in the case of Williams, flash immediately. And so, the scheme, the blocking scheme at least, is totally defeated. Williams actually makes the tackle for one of his tackles for loss during the year. It's a great rep, if you ask me, from the standpoint of he does get reached. The guard is quick with his feet. It gets to the outside, but he understands what to do when he is reached. Essentially, it's a very well-trained defensive tackle, particularly as a three technique, if you ask me. I would personally say that when I watch the film, I see more ability than showed up statistically over the course of 2025, with so many guys in there for Detroit competing for snaps from the standpoint of Lopez, Reeder, and others. The opportunities just weren't there overall. I think he played 446 snaps on the year, or about 40% overall. Another opportunity to look at Tyleik Williams as a three technique on the right-hand side. Once again, a B-gap player. This is way back in week 2. As a three technique, if you're going to be a good one at least, you got to be able to handle double teams, right, or combo blocks and not get moved. As a stationary target, like duo, which is what I think you're going to see here, he's very good at that to me. What I mean is that is either splitting or reacting to the double team. There's no horizontal movement. Essentially, they're not trying to get all the offensive linemen moving in one direction like outside zone or stretch. And I think Tyleik Williams' recognition is very quick, and he does a really good job generally of reducing his surface contact area by tilting his shoulder, and then obviously that's a part of that is getting his knee down onto the ground briefly. We're talking about that is his knee right there, but being able to do so in a stable manner such that he can pop back up and then also try to discard the guard. In this case, you got Jack Campbell filling, and he doesn't finish the play. Tyleik Williams doesn't finish the play. There's other guys there. Anzalone, Aiden Hutchinson. It's a great effort from Aiden Hutchinson, if you ask me. Hutchinson's dealing with this tight end. I'd like to see Tyleik Williams finish this play, right? It would look really good for him as a first-round pick, number one, somebody that's going to be trusted to play more snaps in 2026. You have Jack Campbell back there as an inside linebacker who's just a savant from the standpoint of reading things as an inside linebacker and fitting in an unselfish manner. You can see Campbell is fitting on the underside of this gap here. Tyleik Williams is able to stay in that gap there. Hutchinson, really violent contact with Fanning. It's a really nice job of run defense, if you ask me. Anzalone, Hutchinson there, like I said. I wish that, and look, the running back was untouched, right? The running back was untouched downhill, don't get me wrong. So it's not like the running back's going to allow himself to be tackled easily. I wish that there had been an opportunity for Williams to possibly make this play or impede the running back a little bit more. For me, the idea would be we expect Tyleik Williams to play more in 2026. Looking back at last season, his rookie year, if he wanted to get more than 40% of the snaps, I think it was almost 41%, he had to finish some plays like that, number one. And number two, get some more pass rush pressure when he had the opportunity to be on the field on third down. One more play that's a run concept here, but I do want to make one additional comment about that. One thing that was kind of confusing for me on some of the third down obvious passing situations in 2025 was DJ Reeder being on the field so much. And look, I'm a DJ Reeder fan. That should be obvious to anyone who's paid attention to my content the last couple of years since he's been in Detroit. He was a huge thorn in the Ravens side when he played in Cincinnati. In fact, Baltimore was attempting to sign him here recently, and I was excited about that opportunity. They ended up pivoting and going with Calais Campbell. But still, I have to admit, DJ Reader, not a pass rush guy, and to have him on the field on some of those 3rd and 6s at times, to me, seemed to be a misallocation of resources. Like I said, one more opportunity to talk about him as a B-gap defender, specifically 3 technique on the right-hand side of the defense. This time the gaps are moving. Okay, so it's not he's not a stationary target, meaning the offensive line aren't just merging together from a combo perspective. This is a split zone concept. A lot of lines on the screen, forgive me if that's too much, but the idea here is that the running back is initially moving to his right or left on the screen, and he could possibly wind that back underneath the kick-out block by Harold Fanning, who's going to work all the way across the heels of the offensive line to try to get to Aiden Hutchinson. But let's focus on Tyleik Williams as he stays in the B-gap as the gaps move. I'm not a huge fan of saying splitting the double team, but in this case, you get a really good angle of him staying in that B-gap. And if he doesn't stay in the B-gap, you'll actually see an example of that here in a moment against the Eagles, then you end up with 2 defensive players in one gap. Essentially, if he ends up getting cut off on the backside by this tackle, I call it a scoop block or taken over. I'm not saying that the tackle really is doing a great job here of trying to do so, but if Tyleik Williams ends up back over here in this gap, then there's a natural opportunity for the running back to cut this downhill. Again, you're probably losing some perspective of the running back and possible path, but you get the idea. The running back is veering off to our left, the left-hand side of the Lions defense. He's really good, if you ask me, at getting that knee in the ground and then popping right back up, being stable when he goes down, and then staying in the gap. You can see the guard is here, the tackle is there, so he stayed in the B gap. The gap is moved laterally or horizontally, and as a result, then Hutchinson can just close down, right? And essentially, I think Williams is good as a stationary target on combos or double teams, but he's also good when he has to move laterally as well. I'd like to see him on the field more in 2026. I believe in the talent that's there. I remember seeing him, his film from Ohio State. He's really good from the right-hand side, if you ask me, partially because it appears to me when he gets his left foot in the ground, his inside foot, on those double teams, he can really stabilize, and he retains the ability to move laterally, particularly to his left. A little bit more of a wider alignment here against the Eagles, and he will get scooped or taken over by Lane Johnson on the right-hand side. Just 2nd 8, first quarter. I think it's the 2nd possession for Philly after a Goff interception. But in any case, the run concept is going to be away from him. Detroit's done a nice job of identifying what Philadelphia's trying to do. Basically, they got 2 tight ends on the same side. It's a 12 personnel group. And Detroit's gone with this kind of reduced front to that side. So an A-gap defender, Reader, a B-gap defender, McNeil, and then they've rolled Campbell up to be head up on the tight end and widened up Barnes, who's essentially playing the Sam position. Williams is on the back side of it, and I think that him and Hutchinson have these wider alignments as a result of the fact that they've kicked Campbell over to the opposite side, essentially by reducing to the front side, putting McNeil as a big gap player as well. They've kind of canted or angled Williams and Hutchinson a little bit more. But in any case, the run concept gets stacked up on the front side. All right, so it's a successful example for Detroit's defense, but it's not for Tyleik Williams. Now, it's a different concept than the one that I just showed you for the Browns. For the Browns play, both of those guys came together, and the tackle really didn't do a great job of trying to take him over, but that's not what's happening here with 56, the right guard. He's just off and running. He's gone. And Williams just doesn't, in this case, respond quick enough with his feet. Talking about his right foot step. He's almost ended up with no step by the right foot, almost an understep, perhaps. And then trying to cross over with the left foot. He needed to gain some ground with the inside foot. It almost, for a moment, looks like he wasn't ready for the ball to be snapped. And you can see he gets cut off there, scooped, essentially, by the backside guard, backside tackle, Lane Johnson. Just doesn't stay in that gap, that B gap, like he did against the Browns at all. I still think the lateral movement is good enough to be effective on stretch concepts away from him, but to me, his relative strength, Tyleik Williams, is as a deterrent from a 3 technique standpoint. Basically, do not run to his side. That's what you would foresee. That's what's his ceiling, if you ask me. Reacting to double teams, combos, or even base blocks, those are exceptional. As a backside run defender, needs a little bit more work, in my opinion. Some pass rush plays here, and I've actually packaged two together that show how he was at least used in a different manner as the season progressed. So this is a very disappointing 3rd and 7 from the Week 1 loss in Green Bay. There's really not a lot of pass rush stuff here. Again, there's a lot of snaps where Reader is on the field, and as I said before, established, I like DJ Reader's game. I think he can still play football at a high level, but he's never been a pass rush guy, even dating back to his time in Cincinnati. As it relates to Williams, all right, from a pass rush standpoint, he's very active, quick and physical hands. In my opinion, he's willing to strike. And so this is a blitz where Kelvin Sheppard is dropping out Marcus Davenport to the field. The ball is on the right hash for the offense, left hash for the Lions defense. And so Davenport is the wide side defensive end. Hutchinson is the defensive end to the boundary. Most of the time when you're getting some type of zone blitz, 3 deep, 3 under coverage, or 2 deep, 4 under, the boundary side defensive end is the guy who's dropping out. You got a 5-man pass rush scheme. So Branch and Anzalone both blitzing, and Williams is going to be attacking the center. I do think he's starting to get a little bit of movement here, or starting to be able to drive that center back. He's very violent, if you ask me, in pass rush situations. Looking back on it selfishly, I would have liked to have had more to try to evaluate. I can't necessarily tell you what his best move is other than bull rush and just being super violent with his hands. You do have to be multiple, don't get me wrong, and I'd like to see Kelvin Sheppard be a little bit more multiple in 2026. But this one was disappointing at the time. Davenport's dropping out. It's a quick throw from Jordan Love over the top of that level of the defense. So as far as Williams goes, his rush or attempt to rush, doesn't matter. The ball's out too fast. But keep this in mind for a moment. He's rushing on the inside, and DJ Reader is the contained guy who's basically slow rushing or no rushing to the outside in case the quarterback tries to escape in his direction. So later on in the season, we have this kind of reversal, if you will. Reader's actually not on the field, but it's a 2nd and 8, ends up being a 4-man rush scheme. And so here is Tyleik Williams off the right-hand side of the defense. And the way that Kelvin Sheppard's going to respond here is he's going to drop the defensive end to the field again. In this case, it happens to be Muhammad to the field here. He's going to drop back. And then they're wide rushing Hutchinson from the boundary. So Hutchinson is illustrated by that red line. Campbell's going to cross over this defensive tackle, I think Lopez. And this time, Tyleik Williams is the guy who's going to slow rush or maybe no rush it. And they're almost kind of funneling the quarterback to him if the quarterback holds on to the football. So there you can see what I'm talking about. The quarterback looking to his right, and Williams trying to give the guard the appearance that he's actually going to, use a pass rush move. He's not at all. He's just looping back to the outside. Like I said, I call this, a slow rush or a no rush. And you can see Hutchinson from the top side, hard-coded rush with the potential for Campbell to try to get there as well. He gets clogged up by the running back. And I think the guard who peeled out, maybe Williams could have done a better job engaging that guard briefly to hold that guard and give Campbell a one-on-one. So I'm talking about this right here by Williams, and then Campbell crossing over. If Williams gives that guard a little bit more of the appearance of a move, then maybe Donovan Jackson doesn't recognize it as quickly to peel back here and help the running back, who obviously went pretty low on Jack Campbell. But in any case, Hutchinson flushes the quarterback out, and then Williams finishes it off. It's clearly his only sack of the 2025 season. Is he ever going to be a 6 to 8 sack a year guy like an Aleem McNeil, a healthy Aleem McNeil? Probably not, to be honest with you. I understand that he's, apparently come out and said he tried to lose a little bit of weight here in the offseason. But I just do think there's a whole lot more potential than the production we got last year. Only 10 tackles and 1 sack in 2025. Some proof is here in the pudding, although there's going to be something to talk about in terms of how Jonah Jackson and the center here react in a different way. It's a one-on-one for a moment. Jackson will step to him. Of course, Jackson's the former Lions guard. The center has 2 guys, potentially an A-gap rusher in Campbell and then an A-gap rusher here. I don't think the offensive line here for Chicago is very well coordinated. Jackson almost kind of plays it like he's expecting help. I still do think it's a quick get off for Williams, if you ask me. Compare his get off to DJ Reader's. There's just a vast difference in the amount of ground that he covers with his steps. And then you'll see the first step by Williams with his right foot upfield, left foot across, and then uses that to step across and cross Jonah Jackson's face. Excuse me. I do wonder if Jonah Jackson's expecting a little bit quicker help from the center. I really like Tyleik Williams, the prospect. I recognize that there are, probably people who second guess front office draft picks, whether it's Brad Holmes or Eric DeCosta or John Snyder with the Seahawks. He's a really good football player, in my opinion. To me, based on what I've seen, they got to get him in the 3 technique as much as possible on rundowns. I would definitely like to see him on the field as the 3 technique when the ball is on the right hash for the offense. That means the wide side of the field is to the Detroit Lions' right. I would like to see him as that 3 technique to the field as much as possible to act as a deterrent. In pass rush situations, I do think that he has the potential to give more than DJ Reader. He to me, if you looked at it from a ceiling perspective, he offers more than Reader from a pass rush potential, but less than a healthy version of Aleem McNeil. At least right now, based on what I have seen from the rookie film, which again was somewhat suppressed or minimized because he only played 40% of the snaps. In fact, I think he had 2 games. One, he only played 8 snaps against the Commanders, and I believe in the first matchup against the Vikings, only played 11 or maybe 13 snaps, something like that. A little bit surprising to me going back and looking at the film and seeing the snap count. I use Pro Football Reference to go find the stats and then look at game logs just to see snaps. Played really well, I thought, on a handful of plays against the Chiefs. And then in addition, showed up on film in the road loss to the Eagles that I showed you a couple of plays from. I like the pick. I like the player, the potential for him. Like I said before, I get it that some people might be comfortable second-guessing it at this point. I feel like it's a little unfair with DJ Reader, Lopez there, even a guy like Lacey, who is a hybrid, kind of John Kaminsky type role. He can play 5 technique, can play 4-eye, occasionally be in a 3. There was a little bit of a logjam there with those players. Another way to look at it would be if Tyleik Williams was playing better, then he wouldn't have been behind those guys. And I'm comfortable with that as well. I do like what I saw on the film. I think I originally had like 42 plays saved up for him from 2025, his rookie year. Had to cut it down here to the 12 or 13 that you saw. I feel like a relative strength of his is as a run defender off the right-hand side, like I've said a couple of times already. Pass rush situations, if Detroit is able to get the healthy version of Aleem McNeil back, and either DJ Wanham or Derek Moore develop off the other side as an edge rusher, then maybe there'll be some chances to get Tyleik Williams off the field on those 3rd and 6s. In any case, you guys let me know what you think of the film study video in the comment section. If you enjoyed it, number 1. Number 2, if you think I omitted some plays that perhaps were important, some losses of his. I don't think he has any structural deficits from a size, speed, and reaction standpoint. Very well trained, technical. If you ask me, he's got heavy hands, does a great job responding to double teams / combos, moves laterally really well when playing off the right side of the defense. My suspicion is that that's going to be a place where you see him perform his best. If you guys think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Tyleik Williams, who's entering his 2nd year in 2026, then please consider grabbing a link to this video and sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.